listeners, Harika here, and I'm super excited to welcome you to Upptalk. If you're ready to learn and get your hands work wonders in the world of information technology, then you're in the right place. When I say Upptalk, we are not just another edtech company. Consider we are your learning partner committed to unlocking your full potential. Whether you're stepping into the world of technology for the first time or looking to advance your career, we provide top-tier, hands-on courses to build up your career. Let's take our first step towards learning here and explore it.
Day 1 for Studio. We have how many integration types? Let's have it. If you have any questions, I'll ask questions. You can just answer it. Free? No judgment. Nothing. How many integration we can create in a work-based studio? Type of integration. I'm asking. Asking about generic. It's like generic one. It's like outbounding tone. You are kind of asking. That's a directional integration types. Like P. And then we have studio, or we can call it this. Custom integrations. Any other types you have? Cloud connectors. It's basically on core connectors. That's end to end. The package connectors. These are the 4 types of integration that you can develop in Workday. Now, when you design a studio, you are expected to check. You got a requirement. I want an integration. Then you have to decide which type of integration that I'm going to go. The first option for the requirement. Do I have any end-to-end connectors available or not? And if I have end-to-end connectors, and if my requirement is meeting, then you should go for end-to-end connector. And that is the first option. The second option, when you will go first to AAB. Basically simple integrations. You have one data source and maybe sending one destination. You can use the AAB. If it is one-on-one, it is going to be AB. Even if it is one-on-one. If there is a specific ask that I want a full file, if the ask is I want full file, then you will go for it. And give me a second. File. One data source. And one delivery. Or then you go for A. And how about core connector? When you go for core connector, especially for change data, change, core connectors. This also, mostly I would say it is one-on-one. And here what you will be looking for. If it is delta-R, changes only file. If we are looking for, then we'll go for a core connector. Just asking like core connector. You are saying one. Maybe it can be multiple also. If the delivery are multiple, you want to configure. You can go for multiple. Correct? But when you say multiple, what do you mean by multiple? Let's see. Let me try that. multiple delivery locations. If you are talking about delivery, we can have multiple delivery steps added as part of your business process and you can deliver. But again, how do I see that? You can configure one delivery at a time, correct? When I say one delivery, there are multiple steps. You can add it as part of multiple steps you will have. You will add multiple deliveries. Then it is a kind of child integration that you are creating it. Correct? This is your. Here the question is like, say for I need to segregate few data, say for demographic data and say for job data. I need to create two files. Changes data I'm talking about. Two files. One file is in one destination and another file is in other destination. Can I get two? In this case, do I need to add two document transformation and two delivery in this case? And is that possible through core connectors? Now, as I said, when you create an integration, there will be one parent integration and then remaining all child integration. What is your requirement? That matters. We are telling you that it is a one data source. You want job profile and the other one is personal data. Personal data, for example. We are talking about two different templates, which means you need to core connector to get the delta, or two templates to get the delta changes. Then the moment you get a requirement that I want changes only file, but for a two business objects, then you should suggest that you should go for a two different templates, which is nothing but two different core connector to different integration systems. If they say no, I don't want to core connectors or two integration systems, then what we can do, we can push it to custom integration in custom integration. Prepare the service, get the delta, and then no, merge it, and then deliver merger. Know whatever the logic you want to do, and then deliver it to your downstream systems. But they want to use only core connector, then it should be a two different integrations. That's where the core connector comes into picture. And then the custom integration. Here, custom integrations. When you will go for a custom integration, custom integration will go when there is a one-to-many. Let's put this way, many to one or many to many or one to many. Something. Thing are covered. Many data sources. One delivery or many data sources. Many delivery, one data source. You want to make many deliveries, but you can do this using core connector or other stuffs also. But still you have a complex logic that needs to be built. You want Studio component to be there for certain logics, to write logics. Let's put that way. That's when we'll go for one to many. This scenario will rarely come otherwise. Otherwise, it is many to one or many to many. That's how it is going to be. We got on Studio integrations when we will go for it. Now again, I'm just entering connector. You have an idea. There are two products. One day and any excellent product. Let's put the service now. Cornerstone, for example. What they do, they talk each other. Products. Product will talk each other. Product team will talk each other and then say, I want all the active employees sent from Workday to service, for example. Then what they do? Workday creates the API and then ServiceNow consumes that API. What is as an integration consultant? What is your job? You're just going to say you're going to connect both the systems. The request and response will be consumed by their team. They have their own setup of APIs. All the configurations are done already. It's a pre-configured template. And what you're going to get? You're going to ask what is the username and password that I require to connect to a system. And then I'm going to encrypt or decrypt the file that I'm going to send. Then in that case, you're going to get those details and then feed in the data. That's it then. Either the ServiceNow will consume. When I say consume, they'll pull the data from Workday and then load the data in their system. When integration consultant, your job is going to be just configure the credentials and then encryption, decryption key, and that's it. It will be taken care of and connect to us. But as in an AAB, you're building an integration. When you're building an integration, it is the one data source and then one delivery. And that one data source can be what are the different? I mean, what data source it will accept. What are the type of data source? We have one data source that will accept. Custom report. Can you use it? And then you can also have the website. We can extract the data using reports or we can use you can extract the data using the service. iReport and web service we can use as a data source and then delivery. You can deliver the data to P. You can attach part of the event. And then what else you can? Now you can send the data to Amazon, Google Cloud. These are all the options that we have for delivery. Now you have created and then as part of the AAB, you put a report as a service and then your delivery is FP. You got an output file. And now the downstream system says I want an output file in the format of CSV, for example. The output file. I hope you know that. You can select an option. What type of output? Correct? As part here, you can deliver this file as XML format and CSV and go for a JSON. Format. These are all that by default. The AI gives those options. The XML, CSV, JSON, and even in XML also, we have what type of XML that it can deliver. Let's move. Color. You can deliver the simple XML. Work the XML file and then CSV JSON for this format. By default, you'll be getting it. But you know the simple XML, yes, it is? Your customer is asking for a transformation. The XM method you're getting it. I want to transform that. How do we do that? We can also add, accessibility, custom accessibility code. Accessibility transformation. Accessibility transformation. We can do it. Using accessibility transformation, we can say, what is that you're looking for? Is it XML output that you wanted or CSV format that you're looking for? We can do the accessibility transformation using XML or CSV. With accessibility is having its own transmission attachment. You have done it. Now there is a ask or there is a requirement. You have to send the data to my downstream system. The employee ID that you are going to send that to downstream system. If it is more than 10 characters, my downstream system is not going to consume it. You have to trim that data of the employee name to 10 characters. And when you trim certain names, I have to know which names you have trimmed it. Then it should be part of your event. Your event output should say which names I have trimmed it. How do we get that? I have to send the data to downstream system. If certain field is 10 characters or more, you trim the field data to 10 characters. And then you update the integration tenant with the name what you trimmed. Now how we can do that? Oh no, you are providing the output file to them and also updating your system as well. You are saying, when I say my system in the Workday event, integration event, have you used XPV? It will update the data in your tenant as well. Not day. I said in the Workday event. Have you used XPV? I heard about, but it's not like that much work. That's fine. Not a problem. I'm not going to cover. I'm just giving high level. Then how? What type of integration to use? Your ETNB XTT will come into picture when you want to update data back to integration event. That's how you do it, but EP and XTT will work only in document transformation. It won't work as well. It cannot be done in XSLT transformation. You are saying, because we can't do it. We can't do it in XTT. That's you want to do ET. Go ahead. No, carry on. ET and XTT will work only on document transformation, not on the XLT transformation. That's about the EB on a very high level, in nutshell. Any questions on EI? As you said, you are going to update your data integration event through EP and XTT, and it's a separate business process. You will be calling document transformation from EIB, EI business process. That's correct. Document transformation. E. What is the difference? Like in accessibility transformation, you are mentioning your text file through within the SLT code. It's the format is txt or something, whatever you need, the output file. And what is the difference like ETB? If we add XTT or ETB or document transformation, like that is also an attachment. XSLT code, you are modifying and defining the file. This ETB and XTTS classes are delivered by Workday. You have FEXO. That's a generic programming language. Correct? Whereas Workday was saying you have an XSLT, you can do a transformation. But I have many customers that customers are going to ask the same kind of task again and again. Because in HCMN space, all in HCMN space, you're going to send the data to downstreams. And 100 customers say, my downstream system will not allow more than 10, then which means you want a trim option. In XSLT, we can do a trim, but you need to write like 10-20 lines of code. Instead, I'll write the class for you. That the function is available as part of your ETB and then include that class as part of your XLT. Then you have access to the function. That's how ETB brings the class inside XSLT. In XSLT transmission, it is one way. You get the report output, you transform, you deliver it. It's a sequential or asynchronous correct. Whereas in document transmission, it is a synchronous call. You create a report and then you do a document transmission using ETB. You deliver the file. In fact, you go back and then update your event with the trim data. You want asynchronous call, go for XSLT transmission. You want synchronous. Synchronous also certain things only. If there are some errors, you want to update your tenant or update your event. That this many got errored out. This many got successfully completed. You can give it. Now there is a function called ETB, call and severity. Using severity, you can just put that you know this many got completed. This many got errored out and you can send the data back to event. That is possible only using TB and XTD. Not through accessibility transmission. There was another question. You have an EIB and then as part of EIB, you will do the accessibility transmission. But if you want document transmission, then you have to have EIB and then add a business process and add a document transmission as part of a BP1 step, correct? That's what you mentioned. There is another way to do it. If you want to use E, TB and XTD, you don't require EIB. In document transmission itself, you can input your custom report. And then you can do the transmission as part of it. Then what happens? There is no business process step involved here. Or you're reducing one step here. How do you get the data source in document transformation? Is that custom report? I said custom report. You can get. How do you input in document transformation? We have an option. I didn't use. We have an option as part of only standalone document transformation. If you create integration system and only use document transformation, possibly. Is it possible to call the input data from its custom record? And only. There is no other document, only document transformation. Possible. That's it. Then in that case, what you're doing? Here it is EIB plus document transmission. There are two integrations in fact. For fetching data, you are using EIB. For transforming, you are using document transmission. But if you use document transmission itself, if your data source is report, then you can do ET and XTT. Only one integration. That takes care of extract as well as the transmission. That's more. Now core connector. Core connector, we go for delta changes. They are mentioned as part of delta changes. What is that main thing that we need to know on core connector? When you launch the core connector, the four things are there very important. Last effective date, last successful effective date, entry date, and last successful entry date. It will look for a change between the enter date and is it effective. In that case, you will get the data in the output or the data is not entered between those dates, but the event is effective. Then you will get this data in the output report. Those four dates define what data that you wanted in your output file. The four dates are, let's put that the four dates are important for trying to say now again one template. The core connector will use only one template. What are the templates you have used? I used only worker core connector worker. We have other core connector templates. What are the templates we have? Many benefits related. I have seen many. Position job profile. Benefits payroll. All these templates are available. Based on that, individual template have its own integration attributes set for those individual templates. You have to configure those attributes and select the data section that you wanted based on your requirement. That's how we go for a core connector. Now that's about core connector. Any questions on core connector on a high level? We're good. Now that you got a requirement, the requirement says I can't use my endpoint connector because the endpoint connector is not available or it is not meeting the requirements. Then you'll go for the next option, which is a core connector. If core connector is there, then we'll check whether core connector, it is not just a delta changes only. We can go for a full file also. I hope you have seen that option. In core connector, we can extract full file also. If core connector end to end connector is not going to fulfill my requirement, then I'll go for a core connector. If core connector also not going to fulfill my requirement, I'll check whether AB is possible or not. If AB also not possible, that's when you will go for a custom integration. This is the order in which Workday also suggests to build an integration or select the integration type for your requirement. We're good. Now the type of integration. We can have what type of the data flows. Now we are talking about only Workday integration or Studio integration. As part of Studio integration, what type of Studio integration we can build it? Any day. When I say type, it is an inbound. You can create 3 types of studio integration. You can extract the data from your third-party system and then push the data into. Let's put this way. This is inbound. It's nothing but one that will Workday. And then this is going to be from Workday to vendor. We develop boomerang integrations. I didn't check today, but I got an opportunity to see those integrations. How those boomerang it is going to be. You're going to fetch the data or extract the data from Workday and then do the logics and then update the data again into Workday. That's why it starts from Workday and ends with Workday. Is it a scoping out course? Now I can just show how it works, but we'll see again. Since you're already working 2 ways, we can do it. I can go for a typical session with the course. We can cover it. Or it is your need. Because it's a one-on-one, I'm giving that option. If it is a batch, then I can obviously get that option. You say, this is the basic things. Honestly speaking, say for going by those report writing, repolling report, peating out bounds. For me, it's basic because I know how to call and how to. My intention is to add some complex things within the report. I get. We'll go complex. I will go complex. No problem. Now, for example, I want to know how the new run works. Say for one to use in higher event. Say for one, integration is generating data. We can use it higher business process. Just show me. That will be sufficient. But I'll give you the business case also when you will go. Inbound. You know that from vendor you're fetching, you're getting the data and you have to update the object set. That's when you will get the input file from vendor and you get the data and then update and outbound. You have a business object in both. The downstream system wants the data and that's when you'll go for it. Outbound integration. For example, time offs. Every quarter, you have a time off data in your profile. You have like 10 days or 15 days of time off. You have it in your profile. But the company policy says in a quarter. If you haven't taken the leaves which are more than 10 days, for example, then all your leaves more than 10 days will be lapsed. You have 15 days in your profile. End of the quarter. I'll check. Is that number of time offs that you have is 10 days or less, then I'll leave as it is. If it is 10 days or more, then I'll lapse all the days that are greater than 10. I'll update your leave balance system. I hope this scenario could have seen in India. We have this option. Every year you have to take certain leaves, otherwise your leaves will be lapsed. And now go to the US also. We have that option. Leave lapse. Then that's a perfect example. Your leaves will be lapsed. Then that's when what you have to do. You are going to fetch the data from Workday and then check what is the number of time off that I have. Is it 15 days? Then I will go and do the calculation based on the condition that is given to me. And if the number of days is greater than 10, I'll just update only 10 days back to that worker profile. Understood. This. That's when we'll go for a boomerang. Or you hired an employee. And that employee. I did not fill certain data in their profile. Then you're asked to check on a daily basis. You go and check whether that particular employee has filled the data. Otherwise, you updated default data, for example. Then that's when we'll go for a Workday boomerang if it's the employee data and check whether it is empty or data is there. And if it is empty, then you send default data back to Workday and update it. It is also possible. We're good. We talked about Studio and inbound or bound boomerang. Now let's talk about inbound a little more deeper. Now this is Studio inbound program. How do you design your Studio inbound? How do you design? Now you have a requirement. That requirement, it says, I am going to get data vendor is going to send employee skills data, for example. You think that the talent is maintained in some other system. It is not involved. Employee skills are there and in another third-party vendor talent system. Now you're asked to update the skills of an employee into Workday. That skills will be coming from the talent system, third-party talent system. And your input file will have employee ID. And then what do we have? I'll take a very simple one. Skills category. All this data, they are sending it. Now you have to update this data into Workday to make sure you are in sync with. The data that we have in talent. We're good. This is your requirement. How do you design an integration for this? Here a question is like Studio inbound, as you say. Why should we? First of all, we need to decide why should we go for Studio? Is it very complex or something? How do we decide? Based on it, because we can do through inbound, a business. If we call the web service, maybe talent related that with service. If I need to find out and using Studio, using EIBY, which point we decide we'll go for Studio. Now, when you want a validation, a heavy validation to be done. When you use EIB, what happens? In EI, you will use that web service. You feed the data and then load the data, and wherever you have given the employee skills data, it will be loaded. All, and if you don't give certain details, then it is going to error out saying that these are all not loaded. Correct. But you don't know why it is not loaded. It is going to give a generic error message saying that this employee data is not loaded because the employee is not there, or skills are not there, or category is not matching. It is going to give a very high level error message. But whereas in Studio you want a detailed logging, you want to go for validation, a strict validation, and you want to do a logics, heavy logics. In this, there are no heavy logics. But there is an ask that I want to do, a heavy logics. And whatever the data which of the data is not loaded into Workday. I want detailed logging. Why it is not loaded? You have to say employee ID is not matching or employee ID is having. Instead of numbers, we are having alphabets. There are chances. Workday designed to have only numerics. Your vendor is sending an employee ID as A, B, C, for example. Then you have to say clearly why you can't load the data. Because I have to send the data back to my vendor and tell them, hey, you send this 100 data. I have loaded only 80. Remaining 20 are not loaded. It is not loaded because these are not there. The moment you want heavy validation, heavy transmission or logics to be returned, and then detail logging, then we'll go for Studio Inbound. We will also develop the integration. There's no question. But the moment they ask that, all this for items that I mentioned, detailed validation, logging every transaction, then Studio is the next option other than AAB. There is one more option that we can look for. I have an idea. Core connector inbound, whether we have it or not. But in both the cases, you know what? In both the cases, there is a template that is there. AB has its own template. You want to load the data, but your vendor says, I won't send the data based on the template that you're going to give me. Instead, I'm going to send the data that I have. You prepare your own template. However you want to do, AB has its own structure. You would have seen the Excel correct. If they are not ready to send in this template that we wanted, then there is no other option. We have to go for Studio only because you have to prepare your template. Otherwise, someone have to go and manually do it. Then it is not automated. 100% automated. Correct. Your vendor also should agree. Obviously, when we go for a design, we have to push for. This is how Workday works. You send the template. First, you have to give the template and ask them to deliver. And if they are not ready to deliver and business also agrees that they are not going to deliver, that's when you will go for a studio. That's it. I think first option. Why we have to go for studio? Vendor is not ready to change our input files. Now that you decided now, in this case, let's put that I'm not going to fill the template based on what you have given. Instead, I'm going to send the data in a CSV file. You prepare your own template. That's how we have gone for a studio inbound. Then how do we design? High level. How do we design integration? First, the file will be the steps I'm talking here. The talent system vendor will drop the file in a SEF folder. And then I have to retrieve the file. And then once the retrieval is completed, I got like 10 line items of employee skills data. I have to check all the employees that are there in the file. is present in Workday or not. Correct. That we call it as Workday validation. We are checking the data that we got it in. We are going to update an employee ID. To update that employee ID, I have to make sure that the data that I'm passing inside Workday or the employee ID that I'm passing inside Workday is already available. If it is not available, you should make sure that I'm going to add this out saying that this employee ID is not available in Workday. I can't update your skills in Workday. That we call this Workday validation. How do we do that? We can do it using HashMap or we can do it using Accessibility 3-point accumulator. In this case, one by one report validation, it's time consuming. Maybe we will be having a report having all the active employees. Maybe take one by one through splitter that is maybe working for certain number of data in the file, but it not go beyond 20,000 or like that. It can work for 50 also. Haven't seen. So time consuming. AB. You have 10,000 employee IDs. And all those 10,000 employee IDs, I'll go and put it in the hash map. And then from your input, you'll pick up the employee ID and then go and check. I have 1, 3, 4 as my employee. ID is that 1, 2, 3, 4 is available in my hash map. If it is available, which means it is present in Workday, but it's not available, does not present. I'm going to throw error. This is kind of example we are going to do. Yes, we will be doing it as part of our hands-on. Is this one from, like you are going to take this session for another more 45 minutes. What I would suggest probably, once they explain this, inbound and outbound will close it outbound. How we do it? Just having a quick question over here. Like currently, I go out to Studio Access. Just having a question like if I want to connect to a web service. From last few days, I'm not able to connect to web service. If your tenant is connected, say for implementation tenant, one of the connection is established. You should be able to. In Schema Taster, you can in one of these, the web service and get it. The target should be auto-populated. Is it correct? It should be auto-populated. If it is not populating, there is one configuration that you are missing. I'll show you. Today, I just need that little help. I'll show you. I'll end up this end of the session. I'll show you then. See, I can connect to RDP. I connected through my Mac. I have a screen. As FTP folder, retrieve the file, and then you have a Workday validation, hash map or accumulator. Accumulator will come into picture when you go for the streaming. If the number of data are more than will go for a quick question like accumulator access into 3.0. It's within that async component. Within that you are talking about accumulator access into 3.0. Accumulator is a concept as part of accessibility. 3 final. This concept. Now you mentioned that HashMap will take more time, correct? It is time consuming. And it's not consuming time. Whenever you are creating a report, go by Slater aggregated. HashMap is something you have the data from the team and pull it up and make a collection. You're talking about that 100 employees, and then for each employee you call a report and check whether the employee is present. 1 bar. Let's make the external file. Do the validation. I have a report. And then one by one you are taking through report. That is just that. I would suggest that if the data that you are going to get is more than 10 record or 50 record, let's put that. You're talking about 20,000. I'm saying only 50. You're going to have more than 50 records. Then I would suggest to go for individual transaction check. Instead, go for HashMap. It should be in 2 digits. Then we should go for one by one checking. And if I'm reviewing it, I'm going to reject away, saying that this is not going to be acceptable. We can do that also, but just you talked about the individual transaction check. That is a time consuming. HashMap is going to be good for 100k employees. Let's put that way. Or 100, more than 100k also, it will be fine. But you have more than that data. Most of the customers won't have that much data. But still, suddenly you got the data. Now most data. And that's when we'll go for accumulator concept. This will be faster than this. Hash. If it is less than 50 individual transaction, more than 50 25k employees, go for HashMap. If it is more than that, then go for accumulator. Now next one is field validation. What do we do as part of field validation? This is where we check whether your employee ID is having numeric value or not. And skills, you are expecting certain data. Is that not having a special character, for example? All these checks that we do, or it should not be empty. The fields shouldn't be empty. Here we are checking whether fields should not be empty. All this field level validation will be doing it as part of here. Once we have done this validations, then we will go for web service posting. And then we go for logging. This is how you design your inbound integration. In outbound here, web service posting, you're doing it. After web service posting, you'll be logging it. I have received 10 records. In the 10 records, A got processed. 2. Then you have to capture why it has failed. What is the reason behind that? Is it failed because of Workday validation or is it failed because of field validation? You have to mention that. That's where the logging comes into picture. Now this is for inbound. The outbound is nothing but just an opposite of this. You'll be extracting the data. Here outbound. you'll be extracting the data from. Here it is going to be Workday to vendor. Whichever the data vendor that you want to send the data, you can just update it. And then what you do? You extract. I should have taken the new slide itself. Extract the data from Workday. And then do a logic if you want it. Let's put the logic transformation, not logic transmission. Let's go for a data transmission. And then, if you apply any logics, apply it and then deliver the file to the downstream system. You don't need a logging here because your logging is nothing but your output file. If at all, if any specific requirement comes at that, you know you have to put something for logging. Anything. Then we can go for another file. Otherwise, usually it is going to be a one file that will be delivered. This is on Workday vendor output file. And Boomerang, we talked about the business case. Boomerang is going to be your time of data. For example, you want to update, extract the data for a worker, and then update within Workday. Then that's where it is going to be a boomerang. We'll go through these three types of integrations and the components that we will be using to build those integrations to attain this logic in the coming days. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@upptalk.com.